Hello and welcome to another F1 breakdown testing notebook here. The second session of Jerez has just finished, day 2 has finished, and it's been a much interesting session. There's been a lot more track action than there was yesterday, with over 329 laps was completed today, compared to, I think it was 97, I believe it was, yesterday, so a huge jump in laps, but there seems to be quite a lot of, there's a huge difference in the manufacturers of engines. I've got a lot of testing done, and Mercedes are right up at the top, and the courtesy mainly of Nico Rosberg today doing 97 laps. But also, Sergio Perez doing 37 and Jenson Button doing 43 laps today. Whereas if you compare that to Renault-powered engines, so Red Bull and Caterham, they only managed to do 19 laps today. And with the so little running that was done yesterday, you'd think that the Renault package at the moment, I'm not going to say it doesn't seem as strong, but the amount of testing and mileage and data that they're going to get is obviously going to be much smaller than what Mercedes and Ferrari have, because Ferrari clocked up 98 laps between Ferrari and Sauber themselves, with Kimi Raikkonen picking up 45 laps, and Gutierrez in the Sauber picking up 53 laps. Today. So just looking at time's pretty irrelevant. Just Button was quickest overall today, so I thought, so McLaren looking okay, but McLaren though this time last year was also the quickest car. Jenson Button did 1 minute 18 this time last year, and today he did a 1 minute 24, so about 6 seconds off the pace compared to last year. Hopefully that's not the pace difference throughout the whole year between the V6 and the V8 engine, but a little bit off the pace than normal. The track today was artificially watered, as I just switched through my paper. So it was artificially watered today because of the rain that was falling in the morning, so they decided to bring the wet testing from Friday to today. It's because it was raining, so they thought might as well just have the wet testing today. So that was done today. There was 3 red flags today. Gutierrez caused one of them with a spin at turn 1 going into the gravel traps and beaching it. So that was one of the red flags. There was a red flag for Perez. He had a technical failure. There was smoke coming out the rear end of his car, and Ericsson stopped on track as well in the Caterham today. So looking back then, so I'm going to talk about Red Bull, because Red Bull just has been highly interesting. Yesterday they just did lots of press conferences of to the media, and today they only managed to do 8 laps with Sebastian Vettel, and the main reason for that was basically a turbo or an ERS failure in the car, which they stopped the car, they brought Vettel in, and they didn't run. They just they're checking the procedures. The problem is they were doing system checks in the afternoon, and they decided not to run again. So in total, Vettel was only done 11 laps over the course of 2 days, which isn't a lot considering how much Mercedes did. They did 18 laps yesterday. Obviously that was prematurely halted by Lewis Hamilton's crash, but Rosberg's obviously made up for that today by getting the 97 laps. So they are a lot of way behind, and Red Bull already talking about catching up the rest of the field. But I still think it's too early days, obviously, to make presumptions of who's fast and who's not fast. The thing I found very interesting was at Toro Rosso. This morning they put a picture on Twitter with Danny Fiat saying, "Today is your turn to go out and drive," and they did absolutely no running today. The Toro Rosso team. I don't know why yet. It hasn't been clarified why. I've been trying to chase up why Toro Rosso have not run today, but I'll post it out on Twitter or Facebook later tonight, or if not, and I find out later on, I will mention it tomorrow in tomorrow's testing notebook. But they just did not run today. I don't know why, if they had any technical problems. I've been trying to chase the story, but it was a shame for Toro Rosso and Danny Fiat, remembering he's a rookie driver needing all as much experience as he possibly can with these new cars, and he didn't manage to get out on track today. So it's a shame for Toro Rosso, and it's a shame, and that's another Renault powered car that's not out on track. Whereas the Mercedes package probably looks more comfortably reliable if Rosberg was able to do 97 laps today, not really having a problem. He did a 24-lap run, which Esteban Gutierrez did a 22-lap run in his Ferrari engine before coming into the pits. So some decent middle stint runs done today for the team so far. So a decent day, but not a decent day for the Renault powered cars of Red Bull and Caterham. Caterham showed some decent pace in the morning though, going on to Caterham. They showed some decent pace at lunchtime. They were a couple attempts in the wet weather behind the Red Bulls and the Mercedes, and they put out a tweet saying, "Who says you can't read into testing times? You know, this looks pretty legit." With Ericsson being only a couple attempts off Sebastian Vettel when he was his wet time, and Kimi Raikkonen this morning. But obviously, once the track dried out in this afternoon, they put dry times down, and Caterham didn't really put any dry times in. They wanted to get out at the end of the session, but they were beaten by the clock. But they tweeted out that they're still going to have to do some system checks with Ericsson. So they're still working now as we speak. And Marussia finally turned up. They turned up, 45 minutes before the end of the second test. So they are here. So hopefully now we're going to need to see if they will build up the car in time for tomorrow's test session. Hopefully they'll be okay and they can get some running, and that's another Ferrari engine, and that will do some running. But the main story today, and I've left it as the last thing, is Eric Boullier moving to McLaren from Lotus. He resigned from Lotus last Friday, and now he's been moved to McLaren and to become the team's racing director. Whether or not that will lead to a team principal job or be exactly the same as a team principal job, I don't know. It's still too early to tell because Martin Whitmarsh is still there, so he's still in principle. He's still the team principal until something has been announced from McLaren. But obviously, he is predicted to replace Boullier at Lotus as their team principal, because Gerard Lopez has taken over at the moment, but I don't think Gerard Lopez will stay there. I think he's just a temporary. I know he's there at the moment, but I think there could be a straight swap there to McLaren, from McLaren to Lotus for Martin Whitmarsh. But that really wraps up the day's testing so far. Teams getting a lot of running done so far today. Hopefully that'll continue tomorrow. We can pick up and we're trying to see. So at the moment, really, just to sum up, if there's anything that we can possibly sum up from this test session, is that Mercedes look like they have a very reliable car so far, which is a good thing, which is an important thing, which you need in Formula 1, especially this season with a huge change in regulations. So Mercedes, you could say, are on top of the pack, but it's still very early to tell whether they are on top of the pack. So far this season, and through the testing runs, it's still only days. We've only had 16 hours technically, and they haven't even used half of that for testing so far today. But that is basically all that's left for me to say. I've kind of run over a little bit on time. So please remember to like, favourite, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. We'll be doing more updates throughout the day, tomorrow and Friday, and through Bahrain. So still a lot of testing updates to come from us, but basically that is all that's left for me to say in this testing notebook. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.